Hey guys, looks like Tony responded, and let's see what I got to say about it. Alright, so first I want to get into my last video, and I received a lot of comments and a lot of views, which was very helpful, but a lot of comments also had to do with the fact that it seemed like I was just jumping on the bandwagon. And to address that, at first, to be honest, I did it because I'm a fan like you guys. I watch these videos online and I want to respond as well to my own opinion. Sometimes I write my own opinion, and other times I want to share my opinion with them through video and with you guys as well. So this video is doing the same thing. And if I get views for it, hey, I benefit too. Can't deny that. But let's jump right into what Tony's video had to say in response to Jared. Now, a couple things I want to talk about is the fact that Tony was commenting like he didn't want to collab with Jared. Jared wanted to collab with him, but he's like, no, I don't want to. And he just responded to a few of the critics that had comments about what he had to say, and Jared's comments specifically as well. If you want to really look at what he had to say, you could look at the links that I'm sharing right here so that you can pretty much follow through. I am going to cover a few things in that video because at the very end, he said, if you've got something to say, prove it, or pretty much share your perspective. And I'm going to share my perspective as to some of the comments that he made that perhaps I had a few questions or couldn't agree 100% on. All right, so one of the comments that he mentioned was that he listed a few cameras that were pretty much entry-level cameras, and he's saying, look, with the compressed buffer that you get off of these cameras, it only permits you to do three shots or 6 shots, depending on if it was the Canon T3, Canon T6, the Nikon D3300, or the Nikon D5600. So each had their own rating, but they were very low, and he was pretty much saying, he was trying to combat Jared's comments when Jared said, look, a lot of these newer DSLRs that you can get nowadays can shoot at least 30 raw pics. And you had here, Tony was pretty much saying, no, I mean, if you look at these entry-level cameras, you really can't do that. Well, in my case, here's what I have to say and show you about it. Now, all the cameras that he listed on that line chart that he had were cameras within the $500 to $400 range. Now, if you're buying a camera at that level, in my opinion, I mean, everyone's different, but in my opinion, if I'm personally looking for that type of camera, that means I do want to step up of what a cell phone could do. So yeah, I really do want to see some better quality. But that's not a price point where I think I'm looking to take this on to the next level of professionalism. I'm just doing it so I can show my friends I take better pictures, and that's it. But again, each person is different, and this is just my opinion if I was going to do it. But what I do want to say is use myself as an example. When I started taking pictures a little bit more seriously, and specifically video, like I've mentioned many times in my videos, my first camera, as I said in the last video, was the Canon 6D. So I'm going to put him to the test, that little buffer test on how many pics that you can take of raw before it pretty much you start to slow the buffer. So the type of card I've got in here, and I've got it in here for multiple reasons, is a SanDisk Extreme Pro, 95 megabytes per second, raw snapshots only, no JPEGs. I'm going to find out live with you guys to see how many shots I can take raw, non-stop, and I've got it on burst mode. Here we go. About 20 before the buffer started to slow down. So not quite up to the 30 that Jared was mentioning, but not the 6 or 3 that Tony was mentioning. So it's somewhere in between. So I got to give it up to pretty much, it depends on the camera that you get and of course the card that you use. So, and when it comes to JPEGs, this thing just keeps going and it doesn't stop. So off of what my ear said, that was 20. All right, so the one thing I want to mention regarding one of Tony's comments is the fact that he was talking about price tags of what it would cost when taking JPEG photos versus taking RAW photos, and the type of cards that you would need to get similar performance out of your camera. And that, of course, JPEG is a better memory option, and it's a far cheaper option. Now, the one thing, it's obvious JPEGs are going to be a lot less expensive when it comes for storage and the ability to shoot more photos in a session. However, when it comes to the costs that he listed, to me it was a little, I couldn't agree with it 100%. For example, he said that in order to shoot an equivalent amount of shots in a card, you can let's say you have a JPEG, 32 gigabytes, 80 megabytes per second, $14. You'll probably find it. When I looked online, it was around $12. It was discounted, but it seemed to be, this seems to be the card that he's talking about when I found it. But then he said, all right, to get the equivalent type of performance, speed necessary in order to take the same amount of RAW shots, you'll need a 128 gigabyte SD card to fit the same amount of photos, and you'll need 300 megabytes per second for the buffer to give you the ability to shoot just like you would shoot JPEG. And that type of card would cost $230. Now, what I found online is, I've probably found the cards that he was talking about, which is UHS 2 cards with that type of, or at least close to that price point. The disagreement that I have with him is not so much on those prices, but the realistic choices that he made in cards. Now, he spoke a lot about the fact that you have these entry-level cameras that could only do 3 to 6 RAW shots before the buffer runs out. Yet, now you're talking about, especially with the type of cards that he recommended, a higher level camera that can handle UHS 2. Heck, my 5D Mark IV only has a UHS 1 card slot, just like my 6D. So you'll need a higher end camera to be able to produce that, okay? So now we're in a different ballpark here. But like you just heard off of my 6D, using a 512 gigabyte UHS 1 SanDisk Extreme Pro, it's about $299, just a bit more, but I get 512 gigabytes. If you drop down to the card size that he recommended, it's just over $70 for that type of performance. And 20 RAW shots before the buffer runs out on that type of card is, in my opinion, pretty good. It's not bad at all. 20 shots? It's not the 30 that Jared said, but it's not the 3 to 6 that Tony talked about. So why are you saying for this memory card expansion that you should pay more? I get what he's saying, that for similar type of performance you'd have to really push the card. However, let's be honest and be realistic. What makes sense? And that to me is what really makes sense. And it falls more in line to what Jared says, when the fact that your performance can go that far. Now let's talk about the files themselves, because that's what we're talking about, RAW versus JPEG. I recently went to a softball game and handed my camera to another person and said, here, I want you to take as many photos as you can. I set up the camera with the default settings that I want you to use. I kept it on manual. I white balanced to the lights that we were using at the time, which made everything look, for the most part, natural. And I said, okay, take 100 shots, take all the shots that you want, just get most of the action of the baseball game. So the person did a pretty good job, I have to say. The photos turned out all right, and I had them shoot JPEG and RAW. So a lot of the JPEGs I just sent to the whole team and said, here, this is all you need. However, on that note, we took team photos, and I told the person, okay, stand there, take the team photos. Person stood there, took the team photos, didn't have to switch anything. We didn't switch environments. And the lighting situation didn't change because it was at night and we had stadium lighting. So lighting situation was going to be similar, except to where the shadows generated. But that's okay. When I saw the team photo, I said, hey, maybe I might want to warm it up a little bit. I didn't know that I'd want to do that, but I did that, and I changed a couple of the settings. Now, if you look at what I'm showing you guys right here, I show both the RAW and the JPEG files. And to have the ability in the RAW files to actually shift the colors and the white balance the way I want and brighten it up a little bit without it looking too damaged or losing a bit of that detail that I was afraid of looking was a huge advantage. Not to say that the JPEG looks bad, because honestly, when you edit JPEGs, technology has progressed enough to where Lightroom does a pretty fantastic job. Though the benefits of RAW are definitely noticeable. And if software improves, being able to use that RAW file is a definite plus. However, there was a use for both RAW and for both JPEGs of this shoot. And to me, that's why I shoot both. And when I hand off my camera to someone, I want to make sure I have both. But to each his own. We're all photographers, we all have talent, and we all shoot differently. That's why I say my preference, JPEG and RAW. What do you guys think? I know I said a lot in this video, but I wanted to make sure that I did as Tony asked, which was show the proof of what we're talking about. Show it. I'll tell him about it, and hopefully he'll watch it and see what I had to say. But what do you guys have to say? Because what you have to say, whether positive or negative, it interests me. Let me know in the comments down below. Hit my Twitter up, and as always, you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. See you guys later.